Hi. Hi. Company law, the Act. So the early Act Companies Act 1956. Earlier Act on the 1956 Companies Act 1950 early Act. So current Act another Companies Act 2013. So they are amended up to till now. So some 470 sections, 7 schedules, 29 chapters rules. 29 chapters, 7 schedules, 470 sections. Now, the 123 sections. So, highlights to improve corporate governance. Corporate governance improve company simply and strengthen regulations. That is simpler, but we need to strengthen the regulations of the companies. Okay. So, this simply strengthen regulation to improve corporate governance, strengthen the interest of minority interest. So, chinna shareholders, minority investor. So, chinna shareholders, we need to treat them fairly or strengthenly. So, strengthen the interest of minority investor. Whistleblower, this is the first time that the act has been introduced. It is a whistleblower. The name called whistleblower. என்ன சொல்றாங்க அப்படின்னா ஒரு டைரக்டர் இருக்காரு. ஸோ டைரக்டர் ஏ இஸ் a director of company A Limited, and A Limited has two directors called Director A and Director B. Okay. So each director have PA, personal assistant. Each director have personal assistant. So what all happened between the company and the directors? It should be informed by the PA to other director about the information what are all collected by the company. So this is called whistleblower. The PA should inform the actual information to the company or to the other directors. So this is called whistleblower. Then resident director and uber director. So there are a lot of relevant provisions related to resident director and uber director. So there is a separate chapter called directors. So we will discuss here. Okay. So auditors rotation. So every 5 years there will be a rotation of auditor. So the new appointed auditor will be appointed every 5 years, for every 5 years. Okay. So establishment of SFIO, that Serious Fraud Investigative Officer. Investigative Officer. So there is a establishment called Serious Fraud Investigative Officer. Investigative Officer. So Constitution of NFRA, National Financial Reporting Authority, National Financial Reporting Authority, and class action suit. A large number of persons will be sued. So instead of being sued by one person, there will be a large class like directors, officers, uh, a large number of directors and a number of directors, a number of board of directors, a number of officers who are in default. So the class of such directors will be sued largely, will be sued directly. Okay. CSR, company social responsibility. Okay. So applicability, companies incorporated under 1956 or 2013 Act. Companies incorporated under 1956 under 2013 Act. ஸோ என்ன வேணுமோ நீங்கள் எடுத்துக்கலாம். ஸோ எக்ஸப்ஷன் என்ன அப்படின்னா இன்சூரன்ஸ், பேங்கிங், எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி, ஸ்பெஷல் ஆக்ட். இப்போ இன்சூரன்ஸ் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஐஆர்டிஏ ரெகுலேஷன்ஸ் தே ஸ்பெஷலி ஃபாலோட் பை ஐஆர்டிஏ ரெகுலேஷன்ஸ். ஓகே. தென் பேங்கிங்னா அவங்களுக்கு தனி ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸ் இருக்குது, அதை ஃபாலோ பண்ணுவாங்க. அண்ட் எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி ஆல்சோ ஸ்பெஷல் ஆக்ட். ஸோ எனி கம்பெனி கவர்ன்டு பை ஸ்பெஷல் ஆக்ட் லைக் இன்சூரன்ஸ், RBI, they follow specific provisions and specific regulations. Okay. So important definition. So fee reserves available for distribution of dividend. Okay. Dividend distribute பண்றதுக்காக நம்ம free reserves வச்சிருக்கோம். சரியா? The following are not treated as FR. Unrealized gain, notional gain, revaluation of asset லாம் வரவே வராது. Aggregate value of realization of amount made from sale, supply or distribution or goods are okay, other person okay, network அப்படிங்கிறது சிம்பிளாக சொல்லலாம். ஸோ ஃபஸ்ட்டு நம்ம இன்னைக்கு இதை முடியும். கேரக்டரிஸ்டிக் ஆஃப் ஏ கம்பெனி. மொத்தம் வந்து 7 வேர்டு, கம்பெனியில் 7 வேர்டு இருக்குது. ஸோ தேர் ஆர் 7 கேரக்டரிஸ்டிக்ஸ். ஓகே, 7 பாயிண்ட்ஸ் we need to write. So the separate legal entity, limited liability, perceptual succession, separate property, common seal, transferability of shares, the capacity to sue and be sued. Okay. So sued. What are the separate legal entity? First point is separate legal entity. So they will. So SLB. Yes. Yes. Separate legal entity, limited liability, perceptual succession, separate property, common seal, transferability of shares, capacity to sue and be sued. Separate legal entity. Company is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company and it has its own independent corporate entities. So the separate legal entity, the company is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from the shareholder of the company. So shareholder of the company வந்து சம்பந்தப்பட்ட difference பண்ணுது. It is distinguished from the shareholder of the company வேற, shareholder வேற அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். So it is distinguished from the shareholder of the company. It has its own independent corporate entities. Okay. Company is a separate legal person. அது ஒரு point. company is a separate legal person, அது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். ரெண்டு வந்து பார்த்தா and artificial person, அது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். Then வந்து it is distinguished from the shareholders of the company, அது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company, அது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். Then then it has its own independent corporate exhibits. So it has its own independent corporate exhibits. இது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். So separate legal entity is company is a separate legal person, ஒரு பாயிண்ட். And artificial person, ஒரு பாயிண்ட். ஒரு பாயிண்ட். It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company, இது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். Third point. Fourth வந்து பார்த்தா it has its own corporate independent exhibits, இது ஒரு பாயிண்ட். Okay. Limited liability. The liability of the members of a limited company. The liability of a members of a limited company. The liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal face value of shares held by them. The liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of the shares held by them. The shareholder cannot be called upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Okay. So limited liability is the liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of shares held by them. Okay. The shareholder cannot be called upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Okay, first one is separate legal entity. First subheading. Second heading limited liability. Third one perceptual succession. So the company has its residence from the time of incorporation to value. The company has its residence. அதாவது the company இருக்கு எதுலேட்டு அப்படின்னா ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகிறதுலேட்டு அது முடிகிற வச்சு அந்த கம்பெனிக்கு ஒரு அடையாளம் இருக்கு, ஒரு ரெசிடென்ஸ் இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. The company has its residence from the time of incorporation to value. First point, the company has its residence from the time of incorporation to value. First point, members may go, members may come, and members may go. But the company serves up to the value. But our company company மூணு வங்கி இருக்கும், சரியா? மெம்பர்ஸ் வருவாங்க போவாங்க, பட் ஆனால் கம்பெனி முடிய வங்கி இருக்கும், உயிர் வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. பர்செப்ஷன் சக்சஷன் ரெண்டு பாயிண்ட் இருக்குது. ஸோ லிமிடெட் லைபிலிட்டியில் ஒரு 2 பாயிண்ட் இருக்கு, அண்ட் இதில் ஒரு 4 பாயிண்ட் இருக்கு. செப்பரேட் லீகல் என்டிட்டியில் லிமிடெட் லைபிலிட்டி, பர்செப்ஷன் சக்சஷன். ஸோ செப்பரேட் லீகல் என்டிட்டினா வந்துட்டு it is a separate legal person. So company is a separate legal person. Okay, is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from shareholders of the company. Then it has its own corporate exhibits. Okay, it has its own independent corporate exhibits. Limited liability. The liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of shares held by them. The shareholder cannot call upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Perception succession. The company has its residence from time of incorporation to value. First point, members may come and the members may go, but the company serves up to the value. Okay, so separate legal entity. Company is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company. It has its own independent corporate exhibits. Okay, so limited liability. The liability of the purpose of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of the shares held by them. The shareholder cannot be called upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Perception succession. The company assets is from the time of incorporation to winding up. Time of incorporation to the company assets residence from the time of incorporation to winding up. The members may come, members may go, but the company serves up to the winding. Okay. Then separate property, competency, transferability of shares, capacity to sue and be sued. Separate property, separate legal entity, limited liability, perception succession, then was it separate property. The company is having a right to. The company is having a right to acquire. The company is having a right to acquire and transfer properties in its own name. Transfer properties in its own name. The company is having a right to acquire and transfer properties in its own name. Okay, other separate property. The company is having the right to acquire and transfer separate properties in its own name. So that's what the carbon seal. The carbon seal is used by the company. For affixing it in document, such as contract, and now the use of carbon seal has been made optional as per the Companies Act, as per the 2015, amended to Companies Act 2013, as per 2015 amended to Companies Act 2013. So the carbon seal is used by the company for affixing it in the document such as contract. The use of carbon seal has been made optional as per 2015 amended to Companies Act 2013. So this is the carbon seal. Separate property. Separate the company is having right to acquire and transfer properties in its own name. Separate property. Carbon seal, the carbon seal is used by the company for affixing it in the document such as contract. The use of carbon seal has been made optional as per 2015 amended to Companies Act 2013. Okay. Transferability of shares. The shares of the members, except private company, in the private company, may be freely transferable. The shares of the members, except in the private company, may be freely transferable. அதாவது மெம்பரோட ஷேர் வந்து விற்கலாம், அதாவது ஃப்ரீயா வந்து ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணலாம், ஆனால் பிரைவேட் கம்பெனி தவிர பண்ணலாம். ஸோ ஷேர்ஸ் ஆஃப் த மெம்பர்ஸ் எக்ஸப்ட் இந்த பிரைவேட் கம்பெனி வில் பி ஃப்ரீலி ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர். ஓகே, இது ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபரபிலிட்டி ஆஃப் ஷேர்ஸ். Capacity to sue and be sued. So the company being a separate legal entity, the company is having capacity to sue and it can be sued by others. The company is having capacity to sue and to sue others and it can be sued by others. Okay. So transferability of shares, capacity to sue and be sued. So மொத்தமாக அவங்க படிச்சிட்டாங்க. ஸோ இதில் வந்து நான் ஃபஸ்ட்டு செப்பரேட் லீகல் என்டிட்டி, லிமிடெட் லைபிலிட்டி, பர்செப்ஷன் சக்செஷன், வந்து செப்பரேட் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி, கார்பன் சீல், தென் வந்து பார்த்தோன்னா டிரான்ஸ்பிலிட்டி ஆஃப் ஷேர்ஸ், தென் லாஸ்ட் ஒன் வந்து கெப்பாசிட்டி டு சூ அண்ட் பி சூ. ஓகே, மொத்தம் 7 பாயிண்ட்ஸ் சொல்கிறேன். செப்பரேட் லீகல் என்டிட்டி, அப்புறம் வந்து பார்த்தோன்னா லிமிடெட் லைபிலிட்டி, பர்செப்ஷன் சக்செஷன், செப்பரேட் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி, தென் வந்து பார்த்தோன்னா செப்பரேட் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி, கார்பன் சீல், தென் வந்து பார்த்தோன்னா transferability of shares and capacity to sue and be sued. Okay, separate legal entity அப்படினா a company is a separate legal person. Company is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company. அப்புறம் நாலாவது பாயிண்ட், it has its own independent corporate executive. It has its own independent corporate executive. புரியுதா? Then வந்து அடுத்த பாயிண்ட் வந்து பார்த்தா இது லிமிடெட் லைபிலிட்டி. அதுக்கு ரெண்டு பேர். The members of the liability of the members. The liability of the members. The liability of the members of a limited company. The liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of nominal value of the shares held by them. The liability of the members of a limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of the shares held by them. First of all, the shareholder cannot be called upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Okay. Third was the perceptual succession. The company has its existence. The company has its existence from the time of incorporation. From the time of incorporation to winding. The company has its existence from the time of incorporation to winding. Okay. Another point. Members may come and members may go, but the company serves up to the winding. But the company serves up to the winding. Okay. Separate property. The company having the right to acquire and transfer properties in its own name. So the company is having the right to acquire. The company is having right to acquire and transfer properties in its own name. Okay, separate property. Then carbon seal. The carbon seal is used by the company. The carbon seal is used by the company. For affixing it in the document, such as contract. The use of carbon seal has been made optional as per 2015 amendment to Companies Act 2013. Okay, so carbon seal. Then last one, transferability of shares and capacity to sue and be sued. Transferability of shares, transferability of shares, the member of the shares, the shares of the members except in the private company may be freely transferred. Shares of the members except in the private company may be freely transferred. Last, capacity to sue and be sued. The company is having capacity to sue others and it can be sued by others. Okay. So separate legality. Company is a separate legal person and artificial person. It is distinguished from the shareholders of the company. It has its own independent corporate existence. Okay. Limited liability. The liability of the members of the limited company having share capital is limited to the extent of the nominal value of the shares held by them. The shareholders cannot be called upon to pay more than the unpaid shares held by them. Perception sufficient. The company has its existence from the time of incorporation to winding. Members may come, members may go, but the company serves up to the winding. Separate property. The company is having right to acquire. The company is having right to acquire and transfer properties its own. Okay, compensation. The compensation is used by the company for affixing it in the document such as contract. And now the use of compensation has been made optional as per 2015. Amendment to Companies Act 2013. Transferability of shares. The shares of the member except in the private company may be freely transferable. Capacity to sue or to be sued. Being a separate legal entity, the company is having capacity to sue others and it can be sued by others. So authorized carbon seal alternative mode, authorization by 2 directors or 1 director and necessarily need a company secretary signed by directors and compulsory. So company's liability is unlimited. Okay. Lifting of the corporate bill. Lifting of the corporate bill. இது ஒரு வாட்டி கேட்டிருக்காங்க எக்ஸாம்ல. ஸோ நான் வந்து இந்த இதோட படிக்க போறேன். அண்ட் கேஸ் லாவோட படிக்கிறேன். கேஸ் லாவில் இருக்கிற அந்த மெயின் திங் ஐ நீட் டு லேர்ன். சரியா? ஸோ வந்து பார்த்தா இது லிஃப்டிங் ஆஃப் த கார்பரேட் bill. ஓகே, the separate personality of a company is a strategically privilege. It's a strategically privilege. Yes. The separate legal entity is a privilege for the companies, and it has been misused in the past years. Seriya? So the separate personality of a company is a strategically privilege, and it must be used for illegitimate business purpose only, and it must be used for the illegitimate purpose only. So வந்து லீகலா அதை யூஸ் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு. Where a fraudulent and dishonest use is made of a legal entity, the individual concerned will not be allowed to shelter behind the corporate personality. So அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். So the separate personality of a company is privilege, strategically privilege is, but it should not be used to commit illegalities. It should not be used to commit illegalities. It states that individuals who are concerned behind illegal and dishonest use of company will not be allowed to take shelter behind the company. அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். It states that the individual who are concerned behind illegal, அதாவது அவங்க வந்து பின்னாடி இருக்காங்க, illegal activities பின்னாடி இருக்காங்க, or disorder use of company, அதாவது ஒழுங்கா ஆனஸ்டா யூஸ் பண்ணாம இருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா will not be allowed to take shelter, கட்ட விட மாட்டாங்க. ஸோ வந்து இருக்க விட மாட்டாங்க behind the company. இந்த கம்பெனியில பின்னாடியில் இருக்கிறவங்க இருக்க விட மாட்டாங்க, அலோவ் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். The company will break through the corporate shell. The company will break through the corporate shell. அந்த கார்பரேஷன்ல உடச்சு வந்துருவாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. And apply the principal doctrine of what is called lifting of PC pricing the corporate bill. So corporate bill lift பண்ணிடுவாங்க. So the court will look behind the veil and research actions and take action as through low ADD. So what? வந்து ஜஸ்ட் இது கேட்டிருக்காங்க. இது நம்ம ஓனாவே எழுதலாம். ஸோ இது வந்து பெருசாக வாட் டு யூ மீன் பை லிஃப்டிங் ஆஃப் கார்பரேட் கேட்டாங்கன்னா இந்த ஒரு பாயிண்ட் என்னன்னா த செப்பரேட் பர்சனாலிட்டி ஆஃப் ஏ கம்பெனி இஸ் ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜிக் ப்ரிவிலேஜ். த செப்பரேட் பர்சனாலிட்டி ஆஃப் ஏ கம்பெனி is strategically privileged, but it should not be used to commit illegalities. It should not be used to commit illegalities. இது ஒரு விஷயம். So the court will look behind the veil. பின்னாடி என்ன இருக்குது பார்க்கறது. ஸோ இது எழுதலாம். ஸோ நம்ம ஓனாவே இருக்கிற ஒரு பிரச்சனை. The separate personality of a company is strategically privileged, but it should not be used to commit illegalities. அவ்வளோதான். தென் ஓனாவே எழுதிட்டு தென் வந்துட்டு அதை எழுதலாம். The following circumstances the court will lift the corporate bill அப்படிங்கிறது the following are the circumstances where the corporate bill is lifted. The following are the circumstances where the corporate bill is lifted. So இந்த circumstanceல the corporate bill வந்து லிஃப்ட் பண்றாங்க அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. ஸோ அது என்னது மொத்தமா வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எவ்வளோ பாயிண்ட் இருக்கு அப்படின்னா மொத்தம் 8 பாயிண்ட் இருக்கு. அதாவது வந்து கார்பரேட்ங்கிறத விட சொல்லுவோம். ஸோ கம்பெனிங்கிறது அந்த 8 வேர்டு, அந்த 8 வேர்டில் நம்ம கேரக்டரிஸ்டிக் ஆஃப் தி கம்பெனி பார்ப்போம். அதுவே கார்பரேட்ங்கிறது அந்த 8 வேர்டு, அதில் ஈக்குவல்ஸ் ஆஃப் பார்ப்போம். ஸோ என்னது அப்படின்னா ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ் ஆஃப் ரெவன்யூ. ஸோ ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ் ஆஃப் ரெவன்யூ first court lifts the veil when the company is used for tax evasion or tax avoidance. So the products of revenue court lifts the veil when the company is used for tax evasion or tax avoidance. The following are the circumstances where corporate bill is lifted. The following are the circumstances where the corporate bill is lifted. Products of revenue. The court lifts the veil when the company is used for tax evasion or tax avoidance. Determination of indicator to find whether the person controlling the company or any is during the work. To find whether the person controlling the company or any is during the work. So determination of indicator to find whether the person controlling the company or any is during the work. Determination of indicator. Products of revenue. Products of revenue, determination of indicators. Products of revenue, the court lifts the veil when the company is used for tax evasion or tax avoidance. The company is used for tax evasion or tax avoidance. And the products of revenue. So a determination of indicator to find whether the person controlling the company or enemies during the work. வரும்போது அதை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுற பர்சன் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுற கம்பெனி வந்து எளிமையாக இருக்காங்களா அப்படிங்கிறது எளிமையாக இருக்காங்க. ஸோ ஃபைண்ட் வெதர் த பர்சன் கண்ட்ரோலிங் த கம்பெனி ஆர் எனிமீஸ் during the work. So prevention of fraud. If the company is found to commit fraud, or illegal acts, the court lifts the veil. Okay. Prevention of fraud. If the company is found to commit fraud, கம்பெனியே வந்து ஃப்ராடுக்காக தான் உருவாக்கியிருக்கு, அந்த இல்லீகல் ஆக்ட்காக தான் உருவாக்கியிருக்கு அப்படின்னா அந்த கோர்ட் வந்து வெயில் வந்து இப்படி வரும். ஸோ prevention of fraud. If the company is found to commit fraud or illegal acts, the court lifts the veil. Production of public policy. Production of public policy. The veil is lifted to prevent transaction against the public policy. The veil is lifted to prevent transaction against public policy. The production of public policy. If the company is found or illegal action, the court renders the main production of public policy. So production of revenue, determination of illegal, prevention of fraud, and production of public policy. Prevention of fraud, if the company is formed to commit illegal action. Yeah, if the company is formed to fraud, commit fraud or illegal acts, the court is the veil. Okay. Production of public good. The veil is lifted transaction against the public goods. Veil is lifted to prevent transaction against the public goods. Veil எதுக்காக லிஃப்ட் பண்றாங்க அப்படின்னா பப்ளிக் டிரான்சாக்ஷனுக்கு அகைன்ஸ்டா ஏதாவது ஒரு டிரான்சாக்ஷன் தான் அதை நம்ம ப்ரொடக்ட் பண்ணுவோம். Veil is lifted to prevent transaction against the public policy. Okay. Company is a veil, sham or clerk. When the company is created only as a mask, when the company is created only as a mask, sham or clerk, to hide the real fact, commit illegal acts, evade legal obligation, or defraud others, the court will lift the corporate veil. When the company is created only as a mask, sham or clerk, to hide the real fact or commit illegal acts, evade legal obligation or defraud others, the court will lift the corporate veil. So the company is a veil, sham or clerk. Okay. When the company is created only as a mask, when the company is only created as a mask, sham or clerk, to hide the real fact, or commit illegal acts, evade legal obligation or defraud others, the court will lift the corporate veil. Either companies sham or companies veil, sham or clerk அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். Company acting as agents of shareholder. Company acting as the agents of shareholder. Company acting as agents of shareholder.